now it's time to start exploring the theoretical views about crime and deviance. So as always, we'll start with functionalism, and what we're going to have a look at today is the functionist view of crime and deviance. So next lesson will be where they believe crime and deviance comes from, but this is a more general approach to the functionist views of crime and deviance. So I need you by the end of the lesson to be able to describe and explain the functionist view of crime and deviance. So to recap functionism, I've put up there some words that we might associate, some people, some names, some concepts we might associate with functionism. What I'd like you to do is pause right now and have a go at writing up as much of a sentence as you can using as many of those words as possible. Okay, so we know that functionalism is a consensus theory, which means that they think everything's awesome. They think society works in harmony, that everything works together for the good of society and all of its members. So it makes crime and deviance a really interesting subject to study with them, because they believe that the whole point of society is to get rid of deviance. They believe that the whole point of socialization and social control is to teach us our norms and values so that we follow them. And if we follow our norms and values, then there's no such thing as deviance. So it seems a bit odd to be looking at functionist views on crime and deviance. But, and this is a really interesting point, Durkheim argued that a small amount of deviance is actually a good thing. Hang on a minute. It's such a strange concept, but functionists actually, they're that positive, they think everything is so great that they even find some positives in crime and deviance. The first thing they believe is that deviance can strengthen society's values. What do they mean from that? Well, what they mean is that deviance reminds people of what's right and wrong. A small amount of deviance that is widely publicized, so that's where the role of the media comes in. That's where sort of public punishment has a place. They believe that public awareness of people being punished for crimes or deviance, for example, media reports of heavy sentences for offenders, or schools sending students home for poor behaviour, remind the conforming majority, so remind the 99% of us who follow the rules the rest of the time, they remind us what's expected. So by punishing and having deviance in a small number of people, actually we're reinforcing the norms and values for everybody else. The second reason functionists think deviance can actually be a positive thing is that it allows social change to happen. So they believe that this is how society is able to progress and move on. Deviance often points to outdated rules, and it allows things to be evaluated and changed. And an example you might use there is something like Rosa Parks. So Rosa Parks committed a deviant and technically illegal act in segregation where she refused to give up her seat for a white man on the bus. Subsequently, this was a catalyst for sparking the Montgomery bus boycott, which received a huge amount of publicity and was a big stepping stone in the civil rights movement in America. Her deviance allowed that social change to happen, and it allows in society problem areas to be identified and hopefully sorted. So a function that deviance performs is allowing social change. It can actually be a good thing. So if people are constantly breaking the rules, or more and more people are constantly breaking the rules, it means those rules need to be looked at, and that's where change happens. So you can take it on things like abortion, on homosexuality, where people were kind of constantly raising awareness of these issues, and it allowed the social change to happen. The third way that functionists believe deviance can be functional is by acting as a safety valve. They believe it eases the stresses and frustrations in society. A small amount of deviance is better than a large amount of heavy-duty crime and dysfunction in society. So strikes or protests, for example, are deviant, but they're better than full-on chaos and rioting, which is a potential if things go too far. Number 4, it acts as a warning device. So remember that functionalists believe in the idea of the organic analogy, that all of the institutions work together just like a human body, and they are the organs. Functionists therefore believe that if we have high levels of deviance in one area, for example, in divorce levels, which is not criminal, but it's deviant to kind of, some might argue, to step away from a marriage, a big increase in knife crime, masses of students playing truant, i.e. skiving, being absent, they might argue that it's a sign that something isn't working. So perhaps it's the family's not working properly. You could argue, with divorce, maybe divorce has increased so much because the family's not meeting the needs of all of its members effectively. What's wrong with school that's meaning that students are skiving in large levels? You could look at knife crime and how a lot of people have said the problem with knife crime is the cutting of services and things like youth clubs and programs working with young children and young people in areas of deprivation. So functionists would argue that deviance in one area often is a warning device that points to a problem in the rest of the system, and it's up to sociology to investigate that and work out how it can be solved. And then number 5, a really important function, is it creates a lot of jobs. Millions of people are employed in the business of crime. So think about all the people who are employed in the police, courts, prisons, probation officers, lawyers, politicians, etc., etc. This is a really important function for society because it keeps lots of people employed. Okay, I've got a task and then a challenge for you to do. So for the task, what I'd like you to do, really simple, is to create a mind map of the 5 ways functionists believe deviance can be functional. So you can go back over this little video, bullet point the key ideas for each one, and then I always suggest adding a little picture, so either draw one or print one off or copy and paste one into a Word document, however you feel it would work best, but just make sure you know the 5 ways functionists believe deviance can be functional. And then challenge, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add on to show my homework a PDF of the A-level textbook pages on this particular topic. What I'd like you to do is use it to add more ideas to your mind map. So if you do them in a different colour, we can easily see what is GCSE and what's A-level. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to actually extend your writing if you can use it. And at the end of that little section is the criticisms of Durkheim's ideas. So summarize that into your notes. Think about those P paragraphs you're going to have to write and have those AO3 points ready. What is wrong with some of Durkheim's ideas? I can't wait to read your work.